Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Today I have a upload just absolutely full of a lot of very interesting and on a whole another level terrifying. Before we get into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost you a cent. Click that like button. Takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really do help this channel to continue to grow and go, and folks, they do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into today's upload, shall we? All right, guys, so today, or yesterday, was St. Patrick's Day. It's 1:30 today. I had a pretty insane day full of a lot of information. I'm going to share it all with you right now. I got an email at around 11:30 this morning, right after I posted the first upload, and it just said, contact me. I got some more information for you in regards to D.U.M.B.s, super soldiers, Dogman, etc. Okay, so I emailed him very quickly. It was a Proton email. Immediately he tells me to get a Proton email and go to a store and get a burner phone. So I did. I grabbed a $50 burner phone. He said, get the cheapest plan. Do not have internet access. Okay. So I get the cheapest plan I can get, which is just text talk. And I let him know, hey, I got this phone. Why? And he leaves me a phone number. And then he says, open these files. I don't know if you can see how many there are. Read them, and then call me. So I did. A lot of this information, or the information that I had shared earlier on D.U.M.B.s, a couple of the lectures and stuff, and just some really just out of this world information that I never thought possible of ever obtaining or knowing. He was the one that had given it to me. This one actually is from another intelligence worker out of D.U.M.B.s. This is more stuff about the Archuleta Plateau. More information on D.U.M.B.s. And a lot of crazy information. Some information on werewolves / Dogman during World War II. And more information on FEMA. So I read it and I called him and he said, okay, this is my name, not really, but I've got a lot of information to share with you. And I said, okay, well, here's first and foremost, how do I know that all this is legit? And he said, you don't. You don't, but I'm going to share it with you. And if you feel it legit, like the past information that I've given you, you will share. If you don't, don't. I said, okay, thank you. You're wrong. You're on the right page, but you are wrong about some things. I said, all right, what am I wrong about? This is insane, okay? Crawlers were designed by the Draconian as a protection from other alien race. Dulce and some other deep underground military bases are a place for outer terrestrial and inner terrestrials. Supposedly, Draconians have this portal that they can just, be here from wherever out there they are. Long ago, there was a race of dogmen, dog-headed, humanoid alien creatures that landed on Earth long before humanity walked the Earth. Draconians have been here for far longer than humans and longer than these, what are they called? Lyrans. They are from outer space, not inner space, which means a craft landed. Draconians can come through. There was conflict. There's always been conflict with these Nordics, with the Larians, or what we know as Lycans, Dogman, the werewolf, the non-transformational werewolf on our channel is what we call them here. I know in other channels and other places they call werewolves, they transform and yada yada, and that's all fine and dandy. That's fine. Just here we refer to them as werewolves. No tail, human-like legs, shorter muzzle, strong as can be. This race of dog-like alien were 10 times smarter than what is left on this planet now. The dogmen that we have and that are hunting humanity. Apparently, these dog men that were here long before humanity warred with the Draconians, warred with the Nordics. They warred with these kind of other Scandinavian and Orient looking, dark-skinned Orient looking aliens in a vast cavern deep underneath Death Valley, the Panamint Mountain region of California. So during these wars, this race of dogmen, now when I say the race of dogmen, not what we have now, because these creatures, these aliens that landed here, were far more superior and far smarter than what we have right now. What we have on this planet, yes, they are tactical. They are skilled hunting. But nothing to what was previous. During these wars and stuff, there were creatures created in these deep underground bases that existed long before humanity. Humanity helped build more and helped add on to things, which they took advantage of us. But the crawler was one of the draconian creations to battle or protect the draconians from these lichen-like Dogman aliens. That right there explains a lot to me about like J.R. Roberts' son in Gila that saw a group of crawlers tear apart a Dogman and bring it down into a cave. Gila National Forest is in New Mexico. Dulce is in New Mexico. These caverns are just vast and expand all through. And this hatred for these crawlers and dogmen now have been going on for thousands of years. Supposedly what we call werewolves were a creation by these elite, super smart, and they had tails. These alien dogmen had tails. They look very similar to what we have as dogmen. Tails, hocked legs, but they were far more superior. They had a vocalization. They didn't speak English, but they had their own vocalization. They had technology beyond anything that we have. Draconians have technology beyond anything that we have. Because of this war, they created what we know as werewolves. What Victor shared were werewolves. Talking to this man, things really started to make a lot of sense. And I was shocked at how much sense it all made. Because there is a huge hatred between these two races, the crawlers and these dogmen that exist nowadays. But the werewolf was created by this superior alien dog race. And for some reason, when the wars and stuff and these whatever federations had signed like treaties to where there was an agreement, the dogmen that we have now, they like reverted from being on our planet, from not having use of their technology. So they went back to more of a carnivorous monster that doesn't like humanity, hates humanity. Because when humanity arrived on the planet, and I'm not even gonna even go into more of that, but dogmen and humanity feuded and hated each other, which Danny Van Drimini talks about. So all this is connecting, and I'm sitting down here this afternoon holy shit, this is unbelievable. So throughout the progression of everything, that as years and hundreds of years went by, the Draconians still remained supreme. The Nordics, there was these treaties and stuff, and then eventually humanity became involved. And during the progression of humanity, there were sides taken. Prior to World War I, the Germans and an Eastern European bloc area had connected with these werewolf-like creatures. During all of this, America was making treaties with the Draconians, with the Nordics, and we were finding out things as well. Think about when Victor said these breeding programs took place in the 50s, 54, 56. I'm going off the top of my head, but I know it's those that timeline. And think about what our government was gifted that knowledge to control these creatures as a weapon of war. Because that's all our government ever wanted from the Draconians and from these alien races were weapons of war. But they didn't give us, they gave us what we could handle. Because we are, comparison to them, dumb little monkeys. Not really, but in their eyes, that's all we are. So these breeding programs that started in the 50s were more as a gift by these aliens, these Draconians that signed these treaties to abduct humanity. And we wanted something in return. So they said, we have weapons of war. Your troops engaged in some of these weapons during World War II. The Nazi werewolves. Yes, there was a pack or a group of SS hunters, W-E-R, wolf, werewolf, or W-E-H-R, wolf. But there were werewolves of the German. That's why they were so deep. That's why the occult and the craziness of Hitler hiding all of the information that he had, because he thought that we didn't have it, but we were getting it just the same. He didn't realize that we had deep underground military bases as well. But ours were far more superior. The Draconians and the Nordics and all of these other grays had been in the United States longer than Europe. And they had made expansive, D.U.M.s here. And then they eventually connected to other locations. But he said to me, if you think about when Hitler was taking all of that gold, and there's a train car full of gold from France and from the Jewish people that mysteriously went missing, where do you think that went? The Draconians were obsessed with gold. So I've heard different stories of where they put it in their atmosphere so they could breathe better, or it was used as a fuel. But that gold was given to the Draconians from Hitler for his gift in his return. Also, supposedly, he was giving them Jewish people in the European D.U.M.s to experiment with, just like the government did with the women and children here. So, regardless of, there were lycanthrope werewolves in the army of the Nazi army. Not like herds of them, but there were enough. And I said, well, what about that? I don't know if you've seen that video that I shared the other day about supposedly it was taken in the Black Forests. And he said that more than likely was a Dogman that was killed by these werewolves, but he doesn't know for sure. He said, I will look into it and see what I can find. Probably not, but so that explains the crawler hatred for the Dogmen, and it all fit. Like, it all just literally, I watched puzzle pieces go together. And the whole Danny Vendrimini thing fit. And I'm like, this is nuts. The Victor thing fit. Danny Vendrimini fit. The werewolf crawler Dogman hatred fit. Draconian gold fit. And I'm like, and I said, why are you sharing this with me? Why are you sharing this with me? And he said, because one reason. When you had next to nil for subscribers, you were talking about Bill Cooper's book and this and that. I had caught wind of it, and I saw your fascination with the unexplained and the explained, just the hidden. And that's when I first sent you that very first email. And he said, if you remember, I sent you that email full of that information talking about the Vatican with, the agenda, the FEMA, the FBI, everything that I've shared on my channel right before Victor came on your show. Another puzzle piece fit. So I'm going to share with you a Dogman experience that occurred in the Archuleta Mesa/mountain area. If you pull up a map, and he had me do this, if you pull up a map and you type in Archuleta Mesa, it'll pinpoint it. You scroll in and you'll see the land is scarred. It's scarred. It looks like just trees are knocked down, but they're not trees. It's scarring in the land. And you follow this dirt road to this area called the Archuleta Mountain. And back in 2001, there was a vicious Dogman attack that never made the news. But the people that went missing did make the news. And I'm going to share that with you guys right now. So apparently, during the 2000s, the conspiracy was kind of, people were really looking and really trying to find answers in the early 2000s. A lot of people, when they heard of Dulce in the Archuleta Mesa / Archuleta Mountain, which is just down a dirt road, there is another Archuleta Mesa just up in Colorado. Just literally almost in a straight line. It's weird if you look at the map how it goes. It's like Archuleta Mesa, Colorado, and then right to Mexico, Dulce, and then so there was a gentleman with a friend, and apparently this man and his friend, that's the only reason why he knows of this experience, because the friend did escape. Crazy enough, if you look in the missing person section or missing persons list in New Mexico, Dulce, there's a man that disappeared in 2001. No last name, just Michael. Why is it like that? Well, why does the government do things? So apparently they went looking they had caught wind of the deep underground military base under Dulce, and they went to the Archuleta Mesa, the plateau, and then right just below there on this dirt road is this area called Archuleta Mountain. Well, when they got to the area of Archuleta Mountain, it was kind of like afternoonish, and they had noticed up in the hills a little bit these large wolves. And at first they were kind of just like, this is weird. It's afternoon, late afternoon, but still afternoon. Far too warm for wolves to be out on these cliff sides right in the sun, but they were lurking in the shadowed part of the cliff. But it's still hot there, They had parked and watched these wolves walk away on all fours. And they waited for a bit because they were like, we don't want to go out there and get attacked. But we're here. We just drove a couple of hours from the Santa Fe region. Let's check this out. They get out of the car, like a half an hour goes by. They sit there, they're talking, they're getting their shit together. And as they are kind of meandering through, they're looking for anything out of the ordinary, like a rock that's out of the ordinary that doesn't look like it fits in the setting and stuff. Michael and this other gentleman who is remaining anonymous, like much of these, like a lot of the information that comes out of that region. A lot of abductees only go by first names. So he's over to the side, closer to the car, and apparently Michael is up on this kind of overhang. It's shadowed. The sun is now further in the sky, so, it's down like this. He looks up at his buddy, have you found anything? Nope, no luck here. Maybe we should go to the mesa and check. It's not going to hurt. And all right, let's take a couple of minutes. Let me go up around this area here. And as he's walking, he hears his friend scream, something like, "What the hell is that?" And this gentleman that's down by the car kind of starts running towards where his friend is, and he watches these two wolves stand up and just grab this man and take off with him. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know to go after them. He had no idea what to do. He's never, you don't know what to do when you see one of these things. I don't care who's had an encounter, who hasn't. When you see these things, it is just your fucking mind shuts down. I remember when we were driving by, and I looked over my friends because the driver and Martin were sitting here, and I looked and I was just like, what is that? Like my brain just stopped. And he ran to his car and he drove like an hour away to the nearest county area sheriff department and reported it. They go out and look and they don't find anything. They don't find any blood. They don't find any torn clothing. They find nothing. It's not in the papers. It's not in the news. It's not anywhere. And he is remaining at this substation. So, mind you, during this process, it is all Native American land. I think it's all Apache land in that area. The Hilacara, I believe it's pronounced. But he was taken to the Tierra Amarilla sheriff station. Now, the Apache have their own police department, but they're not going to deal with this. This is not their go-to, He remains at this sheriff station, and he is grilled by the sheriff, like, what happened? What do you mean, wolves? What are you talking about? And the sheriff's already aware of the high strangeness that goes on. Shortly thereafter, per the gentleman that is sharing this with the guy that contacted me, that sent me all this paperwork 2 years ago and today, he said he was brought to a undisclosed location, another military base just across the border, in Colorado. Not just across the border, but they crossed the border to Colorado. He was brought there. He was told not to speak of his friend's disappearance, that they will continue to track and try and locate his remains. That was the word that was used, remains. But there's a lot of people that go missing in this area, so it would be hard pressed if we found him. And, excuse me, I'm sorry. So he's pretty much warned, threatened. They were not your typical men in black. These were military, men in uniform, high-ranking men in uniform, telling him to shut up and don't worry about it. Now, coincidentally, I did look in 2001. Everyone else has a last name except Michael. It was fucking weird because that's just another puzzle piece, right? So then he shares this with me. And it makes the puzzle pieces all that much greater. Also, really quick, I had talked a little bit about the Super Soldier program And per this man that I talked to today, part of the reason in the 50s to gather Dogmen, Bigfoot, and werewolves was to not only have them as weapon of war, but to exactly what the Russian government did to the scientists over there, except, ours was funded by us. And in Russia, it was funded by the scientists. The Russian army and government just said, we're going to take your information and you're going to pay for it and you're going to like it. Almost like a Klaus Schwab there. A lot of that was supposedly to not only use the werewolves as weapons of war, but to also get a blood samples and figure out camouflage and all of this. And then they started to, in genetic mixtures and stuff, started to create super soldiers with that. This is all shared by this man. I don't know 100%. You know what I mean? This is just puzzle pieces were fitting together today for me. And I'm just like, wow, dates match and things are. So this is a little bit of information on, this is crazy. So that was a lot of the Dogman werewolf experience and stuff right there, but it gets a little deeper, just like the deep underground military bases do. In the spring of 1990, a researcher named Jason Bishop sent copies of the following report to a select few investigators and later gave permission for the report to be distributed among a wider readership. Is the object described within the report the product of a secret technology being developed by the military-industrial complex as part of some covert or deep cover space project? Or does it involve something a bit more alien than mere top-secret black project research and top-of-the-line Vanguard aircraft designs, the Stealth series, the Aurora, etc., which are being developed at the Nevada test site? That's one thing I didn't ask him, but I should have. And just reading that first sentence there made me realize something. So I just realized this now, but this is more proof of this alien agenda. During World War II, we were using like B-17s, those, I forget what the name of those little kind of dive bombers were that were in Masters of the Air. B-52s came around in 1952. But in 55, during the beginning of the Cold War, we had a jet called the U-2, which was way, way beyond the technology that we had at that time. And think about when the breeding program started. All the technology and all of the information that we were given to create weapons of war. Just another puzzle piece. I'm going to have to ask him on that or do a little more research, but just weird because Lockheed Martin is pretty, I don't trust that company one bit. Hang on, I got to take a drink. My throat is crazy tonight. Sorry. Recollections and Impressions of Visit to Dulce, New Mexico, October 23rd, 24th, 1988, is reproduced in its entirety right here. Upon arrival, I was introduced to Dr. John F. Guile, a French national. Dr. Guile, or Gilly, has a PhD in math physics from the University of Paris. He had worked very close with the French government on the UFO phenomenon in that country. He told me, Bishop continues, that he has not worked in his chosen field for 15 years, having devoted all of his time to research on UFO. Dr. Gilly, or Gile, is a forthright man. He has no reservations about expressing his own views on the subject. He does hold several beliefs that border on the paranormal. Dr. Gilly and his wife Elaine with him. My personal view of him is one of caution. Until I get to know him better, I feel that I should be very careful. Edmond Gomez is a rancher. His ranch is 13 miles west of Dulce. From 75 to 83, the Gomez Ranch was the scene, the epicenter, of most of the cattle mutilations that took place in northern New Mexico / southern Colorado. Meeker. Holy shit, it all. All right, sorry. He told me that his family homestead, the Dulce area, 111 years ago. So his family, this Gomez guy, homesteaded his area, his land, 111 years ago. And that as a result of these mutilations, they have lost over $100,000 in cattle over 8 years. One of these cases occurred only 200 yards behind his home, and he showed me the area. Edmond was very open and discussed with me in various mutilation cases that had occurred on his ranch and others. Upon our return from the mountain trip, he invited me to his home, where he shared with me various photographs, clippings, letters, etc. Relating to the cases, he loaned me several overhead photographs of Mount Archuleta area. I hope to be able to have them examined through image intensification technique. Edmund also told me about the many times that combat-ready troops have been spotted in the area. Some of these troops were found in areas that only gotten to through four-wheel drive trucks or on foot. It is a very rugged country. Troops were also spotted in the areas that only the Apache had permission to go to. When reported experimental aircraft went down in 83, there were hundreds of troops armed to the teeth reported in the area. When approached, the troops would run and disappear. That's weird, right? Why would our troops run and disappear? Participants in the Mount Archuleta expedition were Gabe Valdez, Edmund Gomez, Dr. John Gilly, name deleted, Manuel Gomez, Jeff and Matt Valdez, Gabe's son. Because of Gabe's position as head of the state police in Dulce and Edmund being part of the community, we were given permission to go onto the mountain. It is located on the Apache reservation. We left about 14:30 hours, Sunday, October 23rd, 1988. We used Gabe's four-wheel drive truck to get up to the mountain. The road was incredibly difficult. At one time, we had to dig out the side of the mountain in order for the truck to pass through. At about 17:30 hours, we arrived at the proposed campsite. It was a relatively flat area, about 300 yards from the peak of Mount Archuleta. Gabe and Edmund both told me that in 1978, there was an agreement between the Ute Native on Colorado and the federal government. This agreement consisted of the Ute Nation receiving all of the territory now occupied along the New Mexico / Colorado border. With the agreement, that they would strictly enforce a no trespassing regulation along the border of their territory. So have your land back, but guess what? You got to protect it at all costs. Therefore, it is not possible to even cross the Ute Reservation without special permission from tribal headquarters. If caught without permission, you are liable for a fine and or jail and expulsion. There is now a road leading to the Archuleta area through the res. It is patrolled by the Indian Forest Service. At 1951 hours, all 7 of us spotted a very bright light coming from the northwest. At the very high rate of speed, the object appeared to be a boomerang shape with a bright red light just below its center. The light was bright white, blue, and green as it approached. It slowed down, obviously under intelligent control, seemed to reverse direction, finally stopping. When it stopped, a shower of what appeared to be sparks were emitted from each end of the boomerang. So there were sparks coming from the ends of this boomerang. This all took place in approximately a 10 to 15 second period of time. We attempted to take a pic of the object, but were unsuccessful. Kind of like what, that makes sense because like what I said about photos of Bigfoot and Dogman, and people always saying, hey, that was a potato cam photo. Maybe there's a reason why, like I said today or yesterday, why these photos are so just not great. And that's because they emit some kind of magnetic or energy repulsive, whatever. I don't know. It's just an idea. But, why didn't they take a picture of this? Because it was unsuccessful. When it stopped, a shower of what appeared to be sparks were emitted. At 2200 hours, we climbed to the summit of Mount Archuleta, watched for about an hour and a half. We could see across the canyon in the moonlight. This canyon wall is where Paul Benowitz, a prominent, well-known physicist and UFO investigator, claimed an alien base is located, and that during the night their ships are seen entering and leaving cave openings in the cave wall. During our stay on the peak, we saw 2 very bright lights on the cliff walls in the exact location where Paul said the base openings were. There are no roads on this cliff. The lights appeared suddenly and then fade over time until you could not see them anymore. At this time, we also heard voices that sounded like radio transmissions. The voices were not understandable, but they were there nonetheless. That same light pattern was seen by myself, Edmund Gomez, as we sat on the cliff at around 0100 hours. We also heard voices. At one time, we thought we could hear trucks moving, but we could not be sure about that either. After 200 hours, there was no more sightings or sounds. On Monday, 24th of October 1988, the entire party climbed to the peak once again. We were looking for evidence that there had been a crash of an experimental aircraft flown by the Air Force in 83. The crash was reported in the newspapers for 2 days as a small plane and then hushed up. The craft was rumored to be a captured UFO flown by the Americans. We were hoping to prove that there indeed had been a crash, but also to find some physical evidence. Dr. Benowitz reported that the craft had clipped off a large tree in its descent, had hit another tree, regaining altitude, skimming over the peak of the Archuleta, and it hit a third tree in the valley of the northern peak. It was then reported to have hit the ground, flipped over twice, and came to rest. We found the trees, as reported by Benowitz. They were all in a line with each other. In its final resting place, the first tree was about 40 inches in diameter and was hit about 30 feet off the ground. There was no fire. I've taken samples of the tree for analysis. The other two trees were similar, approximately 12 to 20 inches in diameter. There was evidence of a fire with these. Samples of these trees were also taken. Between the second tree and the third tree, we found large pieces of what appeared to be part of the first tree. One piece was burnt, while the next to it was the one unburnt. Samples were taken while searching for physical evidence. A standard issue style ballpoint pen was found. There was the same type used by the U.S. government, which can also be purchased by the general public. Strange to have been found in such a remote place in the canyon. Yeah, I'd say finding a pen remotely in the canyon is kind of off, most definitely. And it gets a lot juicier in a few seconds. Let me take a quick break. My throat, sorry. My overall impressions of the trip were mixed. The alleged crash area showed a large semicircular area with new vegetation. The area above the semicircle area was covered with new vegetation as well. Samples of the soil were also taken. I believe that there is definitely something going on in this area. What it is, I don't know. Perhaps there is a base here. Just like I said with Skinwalker Ranch and all the high strangeness that goes on there. It makes sense. Puzzle pieces are fitting together. For me, I'm not saying that this is information that was shared with me, undisclosed. So take it as you will. But to me, the puzzle pieces are fitting together quite nicely, and I'm not pushing them into place. They are just falling into place. Perhaps there's a base there. Perhaps it is jointly operated by aliens and the government, as claimed by John Lear. Then again, it could be the United States base so super secret that there is no fences around to arise suspicion. Then again, I can't be sure. I do know that the evidence that we found and saw definite points to the fact that something is going on. In apparent confirmation of the above, Gabe Valdez, a former state trooper of Dulce, New Mexico, was a part of the expedition described, was contacted by researcher Alan D. Walton in 1990 in an attempt to confirm some of the information concerning his involvement in the UFO/mutilation investigation. During a telephone conversation with Valdez, the following was learned. This is cool. He and others had seen strange objects in the area. However, he himself was unsure whether these were UFOs of alien origin or some type of top secret craft being tested. Something did crash near Mount Archuleta several years back, but again, he didn't find any evidence conclusive proving whether it was human or alien. There was another road leading to Mount Archuleta area and Mesa, aside from the one which goes through the Ute Reservation. As for the Ute Res Road, much of it is in good condition. Paved? Only the area around the Archuleta region itself requires four-wheel drive vehicles. He did investigate the cattle mutilations, and at least in some cases, a known nerve agent was discovered in the carcasses and other indications suggesting the cattle were being used for research. Quite by accident, while scanning the internet, I was surprised to discover yet another confirmation of these events described by Jason Bishop. This third confirmation of UFO activity in Dulce, New Mexico by members of the expedition team was given by none other than John Gilley, one of the Mount Archuleta expedition team members mentioned earlier. Gilley's own report follows, and this is Gilley's report, Dr. Gilley, whose favorite thing to research is UFOs. Subject, UFO report from Dulce, New Mexico, file UFO 749. Summary report of UFO sighting over Mount Archuleta, New Mexico, October 23rd, 1988, by John F. Gilley. Location and time. Southern slopes of Mount Archuleta, 5 miles northwest of Dulce, New Mexico. Location of the phenomenon, south to north. Trajectory for about 2 miles, stopping very close to the Mount Archuleta summit. Estimated closest observers, 480 yards. Distance from observers to the spot where the UFO stopped, 510 yards. Time, 7:51 Mountain Time, PM. Duration, 5 to 6 seconds. Witnesses of this were Elaine Algery, Gabe Valdez, Edmund, friend of Valdez, Jack, pseudonym, PhD, Manuel, local kid, Greg, son of Valdez, Jeff, another son of Valdez, and John Gilly. This is an interesting kind of side note, if you want to think about it, that Jack, the unnamed Jack, wouldn't that be Jason Bishop, possibly? Circumstances of the sighting. I, John Gilly, was interested in the Dulce area because of the rumors related jointly CIA alien-occupied underground facility under Mount Archuleta and numerous UFO sightings as reported by local residents. Holy shit. Who did Victor say the breeding program was run under? None other than the CIA. But Homeland Security is the one that deals with the cleanup. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. This is, I don't know. These puzzle pieces are just insane. Night of observation in the mountains had been planned under the leadership of Valdez. Since about 7:30, we had been playing Ouija with the investigation of Valdez. Just as we were possessing the last person, one of Valdez's sons shouts, "Look, here it comes." Processing the last person. Look of the phenomenon. The object came from the south at great speed on flat, straight, rectangular, horizontal trajectory, resulting in a perfectly straight, luminescent, yellowish line. It was definitely not a plane or a shooting star. There was no sound coming from the object. The object stopped dead in its tracks near the top of the mountain. At the same time, it became extremely luminous and lit up the sky. There was displays of color, yellow, pink, green, and showers of sparks. Then the object folded on itself and disappeared. The trajectory was 2,000 feet above the lowest point under the estimated path of this object, which is the Navajo River, elevation 6,600 feet. So then we'll jump into this really quick and end that puzzle piece. I don't know. I may be wrong. I may be wrong, and I'm not saying I'm right because I'm no expert. I know that I feel like all of this is connecting very, very well. To me, it is. Where is that one thing? Because during this sighting on Archuleta, there it is. So right after they describe the craft that they seen fold in on itself after doing a display and then gone. As declimbing down from the area because they had to climb up, there was spotted a reptilian gray along with a large black wolf, all from the 83, October 23rd. Guys, to me, this is scary. I may be wrong. I hope I am wrong. I used to think that this information was not true. I used to pray that it wasn't true. But after this stuff and what this gentleman shared with me today, and everything fitting together, even the years, connects this alien race of dog men that were far more superior than what we are blessed with now, using that word lightly. But creating the werewolf back in the day, even before humanity, like I said earlier, to combat with the crawlers. It all makes a lot of sense. It all really does. And I'm wondering too, here's another thing that I'm wondering. We talk about these red-haired giants in Afghanistan and other locations that are hiding out in caves. Now, are they using those caves to travel to these deep underground bases to hide from humanity and then to come out every once in a while to strike fear? I don't know. This is a lot of crazy information. A lot of it, I'd say during that conversation with him, 89% of everything fit for me. And with the dates and everything, it made it just that much more real. And I might be, going down a deep rabbit hole. I might be giving information away that I might regret someday. I don't know. I don't know. But I know that after sharing some of the information that he shared with me, and it's coincidentally too, he shared this information with me 3 years ago, whatever it was. And then Victor contacts me. I start sharing more of this information, and the cartoonist that worked with Bill Cooper on his newspaper just recently contacted me. And it makes, this guy is super precautious because using this Proton email, making me get a burner that has no internet service. Like I turned the Wi-Fi off so it wouldn't connect. I have no other need for this phone except to talk to him and now do interviews with people on it. So I don't know. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this information as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I hope it makes sense. I hope I'm not crazy. I hope I'm seeing things that are right there. I hope I'm not, I hope that the puzzle pieces are really fitting together and I'm not just seeing it because that's what I want. But to me, it all fit, like I said, with the Danny Van Drimeny, the times and dates of the breeding program correlating with everything else is just insane for me. It's insane. Guys, thank you for supporting the channel. Your support is what makes this channel continue to grow and go, and honestly what makes it so special. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, our pets, our family, and friends. These creatures are real. They're out there. They're dangerous. Share this information with the people you love and care about. It may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop searching for the truth. Never stop asking questions. Just, we can't. We need this information to go public. All right, guys. Talk to you later. And God bless.